This channel is for mature audiences only. If you're underage on this channel, your parents' mom should have swallowed them or spit them out.
A nigga might be from a third world country, but a nigga got standards.
Cada vez que chego no bairro toda a gente fica.
What's good? This is your boy Internal Sadist, aka Tico Trend. This video is going to be about something that came up in a live stream last night while we were doing Relentless with True Sherm and Hammerhand and all of them. Definitely go check out that video. It was a pretty funny video, and go check out the chat. It was a very funny chat. But this came up in the chat with a certain person that called themselves being intelligent or called themselves trolling, which was actually pretty funny. Which I actually thank a lot of my trolls a lot of times, because they typically give me ideas to do a lot of videos on, last minute videos on, or pop-up videos on like that. So this video is going to be very short. It's probably going to be about like 30 minutes maximum, because I don't really plan on staying on this video long because I just don't feel like staying on this video for a long time. But the topic is white women, objects or desire. And that's pretty much what this video is going to be about, because apparently Mr. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to give him any, credit or any, attention. But if you were on the live stream yesterday, you pretty much know who I'm talking about. But the thing he was basically saying was that, everybody else is trying to steal the white woman. That's actually very false, because at the end of the day, then he talked about how, we need to, make it so that, nobody's stealing our women and this, that, and the other, and this, that, and the other, and so on and so on and forth on and forth on. The problem with that statement isn't the fact that white women are being stolen. It's the fact that white men are dating outside the race. I've actually made a video about this where I said white men date outside their race more than white women date outside their race. White women are the least likely to date outside their race than any other group of people on the face of this earth. The problem is white men are dating outside their race. And the sad part about that is the reason why white women are dating outside their race is because the divide is actually starting to get a lot bigger between white men and white women. So what's happening with the divide is they're starting to separate and get further apart. They're not even coming together anymore, so they're separating at a high rate. And the problem with that is, while they're all separating at a high rate and they don't know how to communicate with each other and or talk to each other properly, seeing or facing a lot of white women who are starting to be without men. And you also got to take inspiration too. There's a lot of philosophies like the red pill, MGTOW philosophy, and things like that actually makes for women being left out in the cold. I'm not defending them, but women being left out in the cold and not having any more options because they're running out of options. Then you also got the white men who like to travel to places like Asia to find a wife, who are leaving white women out in the cold. So in all technicality, nobody's stealing white women. White women are literally being left with no options due to philosophies and the fact that white men don't really see them. A lot of white men are starting to get very disenfranchised with white women. So typically they travel to Latin America or, Africa or, well, not as much Africa, but more so Latin America, India, Asia, places like that, where they could find a woman that's more feminine. And the sad part about that is no questions asked. What? Wait a minute. What? But the thing about it is when it happens, it ends up being this guy. So what ends up happening is there ends up being a lot of leftover white women who can't really get what they want out of a white guy for this reason. And then the sad part about that, a lot of other cultures either don't want them or they skip over them or they rather just, pump and dump them for all intents and purposes. It's almost like the leftover women in China when it comes to white women. This is basically what a lot of people are actually this is basically what a lot of women are actually experiencing right now in this day and age. They're starting to turn into a lot of leftover women. And the thing that I've always found funny about that is it isn't because, they're being stolen. It's more or less the fact that they're being left behind because white men are actually dating women who tend to act more feminine or tend to portray themselves as more feminine. Like you typically get white men dating Latinas, you get white men dating Asian women, Asian from the Orient women. You also get a lot of white men dating Arab women, and they also date Indian women. So this is typically the shift that's starting to happen from the white woman to other women in the white community, the male side of the white community, because they're not really seeing their women as viable options anymore. So they're leaving and going elsewhere to find something or try to experience something that's something of a feminine nature. So you got that aspect of why women are being why white women aren't really being mated up or dated out basically. Then you also got thought culture or I could do what I want culture that actually participates to why white women are single. Um because at the end of the day, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of white men that will take women that's been ran through multiple times on set, on a porn set, or on OnlyFans, or any way, shape, or form. But the sad part about that is those men, those men they're not really far and few between. They're willing to accept women and wife up a woman like that. Some are, not all of them are, but some are. Men who know their worth and know their quality of life and know what they want in life typically leave women like that to their own devices. But there are a group of white men that will date and marry and wife up women who's been ran through like a porn star, who are porn stars, and stuff like that. So it's one of those things where, it's one of those things where, you know, uh, white women are starting to run out of options very quickly when it comes to stuff like this. White women are running out of options very quickly. And the sad part about that is it's their own devices from, wanting to be miss independent and miss wanting to be miss sexually liberated. So this is another problem that a lot of white women are running into. Um, I'm trying to think of another problem that white women are running into when it comes to it. I basically described the dating dynamic, and nowadays white men are looking for women who are more feminine. This is typically why they're running over to get Arab women, Indian women, Asian women, and Latinas. So that's basically what they're looking for, and that's basically what they want. They're willing to drop everything and just go find something that resembles something feminine. Um, the sad part about that is moving on to the next topic that I just talked about. White women shot themselves in the foot with this whole entire sexual liberation or not really thinking their life plans through. A lot of them actually shot themselves in the foot by doing this. A lot of them are feminists and they shot themselves in the foot off the bat. But typically, that's how a lot of this stuff actually works. So now you end up with a lot of white women who have pretty much been either ran themselves through the ringer or destroyed their opportunity and chances to actually get the white man that they want in their lives. That's typically how a lot of this shit works. This is typically why you got a lot of people like AOC dating a white guy, and you got people like Kamala Harris dating a white guy, and you got Candace Owens dating a white guy. So this is typically the type of shit that you'll end up seeing on a regular basis, where a lot of educated women, educated, supposedly conservative women are dating. Well, not really Kamala Harris and AOC, but typically you get a lot of educated women of other cultures dating white men because white men are tired of their own women. The sad part about that is it's not white men's fault. it's white women's fault for overplaying their hand and abusing the market that they thought they was running and had for all intents and purposes. This is typically what you're running into. Um, another topic that everybody always sweeps under the rug is typically the fact that white women are dating black men. Now, most of the white women who date black men because they want to be rebellious to their family. That's typically how it works. That's pretty much all it really is. That's typically how it works, and that's all it would ever be. Because at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, the reason why white women date black men is to be rebellious against either father or mother or family in general. There's typically always that racist relative in the family that kind of sort of, pushed them off to go want to date a black guy. So the sad part about that, a large chunk of white women who date black guys only date black guys because they have that racist relative who hates black men in the family. It is what it is. That's typically, or they just want to be rebellious and they don't want to date somebody that looks like their family and they want to be different for all intents and purposes. Because I've talked to many older white women, or many older white women who actually have this view on, their daughters not dating black men. It's mainly usually a lot of older white women who actually have these views, sadly. Because I don't know how many times that I've been in an elevator with an older white woman and she said to me, I was upset with my daughter because she dated a black guy and they wouldn't let me see my grandchildren. And I think I learned my lesson. And now I'm getting older and I want to be able to spend time with my grandchildren. Literally said that shit to me like I'm the husband or boyfriend or the father of their grandchildren. Like, that's something that you should be talking to him about. That's nothing that you should be talking to me about. And that's the problem that I have. I don't know if it's the fact that, they're scared that, if they talk to their daughter about this, or their daughter and their significant other about this, that, they won't see their grandchildren again. So they got to talk to some random Negro about this or something like that. And it's typically how it works. There's a lot more white women who actually have these views than white men who actually have these views. What I've actually found, sadly, is white men are more accepting of another race than white women. Now, don't get me wrong. There are those chunks of white men that actually have a problem with black men or that are racist against black men. But typically, statistically, white women are more likely to hold these feelings than a white man is, sadly. White women are more likely to hold these than a white man. And typically it ends up being like the white woman, it ends up being the grandma or the mom of the white woman that typically hold these views. Typically when it's like a racist dad, typically when it's a racist male, it's either going to be the granddad. Every now and again, it's going to be the dad, or it's going to be the uncle. It's typically how that works, I've noticed. But it's more statistically going to be the granddad or the uncle or the cousin that's going to be racist against black people, more so than actual dad that's going to be racist against black people. That's something I've actually noticed too. So typically, a lot of white women date black men because their families are racist against black men or have very bad views against black men. That's pretty much that group of women. And when it comes to white men and white women dating white men, statistically, black men for white women are less desirable than your Asians and your Indians. Typically, a white woman is more likely to date an Arab, an Indian, or an Asian guy more than they're going to date a black guy. And the sad part about that, the reason why people always think that black men are winning with all the black women is because of, social media and society and the NBA players and the football players and, some of these rappers too. The sad part about that, they're a small chunk of the overall society. Like, black men are only 12% of the population. Only 12% of the population and dropping. So you can't take celebrities and sports players and say, this is all the black men are dating, basically, when in fact that's a small majority of what black men are actually dating. I mean, that's a small majority of black men, a very small majority of black men who are actually dating these women. The sad part about that, that number is actually smaller than the number of black people who commit crimes on any scale. It is what it is. Like, it's literally smaller than black people who commit crimes on a regular basis, multiple crimes on a regular basis. So that the number of black men who commit multiple crimes, or the number of crimes committed by black people, actually outweigh the number of black men who are actually dating white women. Sports stars who are actually sports and stars who are dating white women for all intents and purposes. You're more likely to run into a black guy dating a Latino than you are a black guy dating a white woman, or a black guy dating, a black woman, most definitely, before you actually run into a black guy dating a white woman. Which brings me to my next point. When it comes to black women, and this is basically desirability. When it comes to black women, the reason why black women are so least desired, and this is something that nobody ever really wants to talk about because they're scared of, like, YouTube going full ham on them and shit. But typically, the reason why black women are the least desired is due to their how they act, or their attitude and how they act for all intents and purposes. This is the reason why black women actually fall to the bottom of the totem pole for this reason. The sad part about that is, when it comes down to it, black women are least desired for the fact that their attitude and their behavior. The best way I could describe it would be, think of it more so behavioral wise, think of it more like killer bees. That's the best way I could describe it to you. Would you want to stick your dick in a killer bee's nest? Then why would you do it for all intents and purposes? Yeah, I noticed that too. But the sad part about that is that was always on the rise. The sad part about that, it was just kept more quiet and kept more behind the scenes, and it wasn't in your face like it used to be. Because the sad part about that, there's always been a lot of British people who've been dating outside their race for a very, very long time. The thing with it though is it was always kept, it was one of those things like mind your business type thing. And the sad part about that is it depends on how you look at it. White women aren't really more submissive on a whole. Sadly, if you're going to go for more submissive, I would say the Arab women, and I would say Asian women are more submissive on whole. So those are the more submissive groups of women in this whole entire world. White, Asian women and Arab women are the most submissive in this world. It's pretty much how it works. The problem with white women is white men have this habit of always falling for okie dokes or having a low self-esteem. It's funny how white women have this high self-esteem, but under that on outwards for outwards appearances, they have this high self-esteem, but under that makeup and that facade, they have one of the lowest self-esteems out of all the cultures, basically. Because the sad part about that is, if you ever notice, all the magazines got white women on the covers, and they're picking apart them one at a time, everything about them one at a time. So white women typically feel like they're inferior a lot of times because of the image on the magazine and the titles that's always sprawled across the magazine. Typically, white women feel inferior for this reason, because it's like how you can be a better person, how you can be a better lover, how to be a better love, how you can love your man better, how you could do this better with your man, and how you can be a better, how you can lose weight, how you can be more attractive to your, these magazines literally pick apart the self-esteem of white women on a regular basis, and it's the most interesting thing in the world. But white women read this and suck it up. Um, yeah. Um, and it's typically how it works. Um, it's pretty much always been what it's always been. Um, the funny thing about Great Britain is Great Britain has always been like one of the more open countries when it comes to dating out. Um, it's more open than the United States when it comes to dating out. The sad part about that is, I would go as far as to say Great Britain's probably more open than Canada when it comes to dating out of your race. Um, it's sad, but it's true because the sad part about that, a lot of the couples, if you've ever noticed, a lot of the famous black artists like Akala are from black white households or black Indian households or black Asian households or white Asian households or white Indian households or white Asian households or white black households. I've already said that basically. But typically, a lot of the famous artists typically come from a mixed background, or a lot of the famous people come from mixed race or mixed cultural backgrounds. For all intents and purposes, the best way I can describe it in Great Britain. But yeah, and the sad part about that, that's actually very true when it comes to that. Black men typically have a higher black British men have a higher self-esteem than most other men, I've noticed. Another group of men who actually have a high self-esteem are Jamaicans and Africans. They have a high self-esteem as well too. And typically a lot of those black men who actually have those high self-esteem typically are black men that are immigrants, as he was saying. The black male immigrants typically have a high self-esteem when it comes down to it. Um, another thing that, going back to the whole entire black women, why they're the least desirable based on their attitude. Uh, Now back to actual white women, because that's what this whole entire stream is actually about. The thing about white women that a lot of people keep forgetting is that white women are only desired by white men. And what I mean by that, oh no, Tico, they're desired by all these other. Blah, blah, blah. Shut up. Listen. White women are only desired by white men. When it comes to other races, they're more objects. They're more of objects to other races than they are desired by other races. That's typically how it works. Think of when it comes to white men, they're their queens, they're their everythings, they're the mother of their children, they love them all, basically. When it comes to other races, it's nothing more than like winning a trophy or winning a buying a new car when it comes to other races. And this is typically what I meant when I was talking about the one video that I did that I view women as accessories that accentuate your life, basically. This is typically what I was referring to when I was referring to women in general, but this is typically how other cultures and races see white women. They see them as accessories or objects for all intents and purposes. Think of it like, shooting a deer, shooting a 9-point buck and hanging it on the fucking wall. I'm not comparing women to animals, but this is literally how other cultures see white women. They see them as a trophy or an object to be had, basically, or an award to win versus an actual person to desire. And this is what a lot of people, especially that goofball idiot that was in my comment section yesterday, this is something that he doesn't really seem to understand. They're more of an object than they are. They're more of an object than they are desired by these people. People just want them so they can hang them up, basically, or want them. Think of it like this. Remember back in the day, or still to this day, a lot of men actually have trophy wives. These are women that they basically just show off so they can actually say, look what I got. That's basically other cultures for you in a nutshell. Look what I got.
So, in all technicality, white women to other cultures is nothing more than a trophy or a trophy wife, basically, or a trophy girlfriend. Because the sad part about that, what I've noticed with a lot of these cultures is typically they very rarely wife up these women. They just basically have them to show them off so they let you know that, look what I can do. That's it. Look what I can do. You thought I wasn't shit. Look what I can do, basically. That's all white women are to other cultures. That's all they will ever be to other cultures. Because the sad part about that is no matter how you cut it, most black men date and marry black women. Most Asian men date and marry Asian women. Most Indian men date and marry Indian women. It is what it is. At the end of the day, I want to say the Asian culture is less likely to date outside their race than the white culture. It is what it is. And the Latin males are less likely to date outside their culture than Latin females. Latinas are more likely to date outside their cultures than their Latin male counterparts. Um, it is what it is, and black men are more likely to date outside their race than their black female counterparts, and white men are more likely to date outside their race than their female counterparts. However, I'm on top of that, black men are more likely to date outside their race than white men, along with Latinas. Latinas are more likely to date outside their race than black men, or I think it's the same rate or a little more than black men are. Is typically how it works. Asians are less likely to date outside their race overall. Um, and it is what it is when it comes down to it. So it's one of those things where you have to understand why white women are seen a certain way. Like I said, white men view white women as desires in human beings, whereas other cultures view white women as a trophy or an object to be had so you can show off, basically. That's all it really is when it comes to other cultures. You basically say, look what I got, end the story, everybody shut up, I'm the man. And you basically just go on about your merry way, because the sad part about that is, despite the fact that they get these white women, they very rarely settle down for that white woman. They typically go elsewhere or look for another person, basically. Like, you're more likely to see a black man with a Latina, or you're more likely to see a black man with an Asian than you are to see them with a white woman. It's pretty much how it works. Now, don't get me wrong. There's that small subsection of white women who date black men outside their race. Now, I'm not talking about I'm talking about the small subsection of white women who date outside their race willingly without any, any manipulation or anything. Like, they don't want to. It's not the fact that these are the ones that are not rebelling against their family because they're racist against black people. These are the ones who are willing to actually date outside their race and date black men. That subsection of white women is very, very small. It's very, very small. It's so small. White women are more likely to date Asian men. There's a larger subsection of white women that are dating Asian men or Indian men than are of this same subsection dating black men, no matter if you like it or not. So at the end of the day, black men are the least desirable when it comes to white women. At the end of the day, I mean, don't get me wrong. There are those TikTok thoughts basically that make these things, but at the end of the day, that's few and far between where you'll see that. You're more likely to see a white woman with an Asian man. Matter of fact, the European woman, Eastern European woman, Asian man community is actually much larger than the black man, white woman community, sadly. So it is what it is. And that's pretty much how it works, and that's pretty much what it comes down to. So now you end up with a group of white women that are caught in a catch-22 due to various philosophies like your MGTOW red pill and things like that, or passport game white people, basically, where they say, I'm no longer dating in my race. I'd rather date somebody that's more submissive and more feminine. So they travel abroad to go date other women like Latinas, Asians, and Arabs and Indian women. Is typically how it works. So with the rise of that, with the rise of philosophies like MGTOW, with the rise of other things like the red pill community and stuff like that, and pickup artistry, white women are starting to lose. The divide between white men and white women are starting to get much bigger. And the sad part about that, white men are starting to need white women less and less every single year, every single day. And white women don't quite see this. And these are the ones that are always writing the op-eds about where have all the eligible men went, or where have all the good men gone. These are literally those same women that are writing these op-eds about shit like that. And another group of men that are screwing women over, well, that are making it hard for women to find somebody, is the gay community. That's literally making it hard for women to find men. I forget the actual statistics. I don't have it on me right now. I forget the actual statistics by race on who on the gay statistics between race. I want to say it's higher. I want to say the gay community statistically higher is more white men. It's more white men than black men that are gay, I think. But the black population is starting to catch up to the white population, I want to say. I could be wrong, and they may have surpassed them already, but I haven't really quite rechecked the numbers on that. But last I checked, white men are more statistically likely to be gay than black men. But the sad part about that number is starting to rise now. But per capita, you probably can find per capita, it's probably more black men per capita that are gay per capita than white men. But the overall numbers show that if you're going to get rid of per capita, the overall numbers show that it's more statistically going to be white men. Not statistically, I mean more likely number wise is white men. But per capita, it's more so black men. Is another thing that's actually screwing over white women. And there's also the fact that there's a swirler community that's actually starting to grow and get bigger and bigger every day with the white man and the black woman, which is actually pretty interesting. There's a lot of the swirling community is actually starting to get very, very big now, and it's actually starting to pick up traction and get big. It's almost as big as the Eastern European Asian man market, basically. It's starting to really get big, for all intents and purposes. And that's typically how this stuff works. So now you're running into that problem, and white women are running into that problem. Then they're also running into the passport game white men who are just going abroad to get what they want or get what they need or find what they really want and what they really need in life when it comes to a woman. You got that too. So you got plus other things that are actually playing a huge role in, white women missing out on the dating market for all intents and purposes. And with their attitudes towards their men, that chasm is starting to grow even bigger every day. It's starting to look like, pretty soon it's going to look like the fucking Grand Canyon when it comes to actual relationships and how far apart they are. And it's going to go even bigger than that, sadly. If the white women continue down the path that they're continuing down, that whole entire gap is going to only get bigger over the many years later down the line. Unless somebody does something differently or somebody puts their foot down, it's just going to get huger. It's just going to get huge, whether you like it or not. But that's typically how that is. And I said I'm going to only make this video 30 minutes. So that's one of the many problems that you're running into when it comes to it. So I'll make it 35. That's one of the many problems that you're running into when it comes to dating, when it comes to white women not getting what they need or want in the dating market, and why people think that white women are more desirable. I basically explained why. Y'all have a blessed one. Be good to yourselves. Treat yourselves like milk through dumb, but spoil yourselves and work on yourself and always try to improve yourself and make yourself the better version of yourself. Be blessed. Y'all have a good one. Some outros.
You look like you. Yeah.